of the Indians in South America worship Mother Earth, who they call Pachamama, the goddess of good and of evil. Pachamama is the protector of animals and plants and man. The people of Bolivia love fiestas. And if you watch very carefully, in this religious carnival parade, you'll see how they combine Indian folklore with ancient traditions and Christian teachings. Closely, you'll see a fellow with horns. That's the devil spirit who lives underground in the mines and owns the minerals and causes cave-ins on the miners. And there's Batman, one of their favorite heroes. Buenos dias, amigos. Our lesson today is about Bolivia, which is truly one of the most beautiful and interesting countries in all of South America. Bolivia is the fifth largest country in South America. It's 900 miles long and about 800 miles wide and is located in the west central part of South America. Bolivia is landlocked. It has no coastline. Now we could divide Bolivia into three geographical regions. The highlands, which are above 12,000 feet and include the mountains and the altiplano, the yungas, which are the high mountain valleys, and the lowlands, which are below 1,000 feet and include the tropical rainforest and the grasslands. Let's start with the highlands, which include three ranges of the Andes Mountains, the altiplano, and a very high lake. For although Bolivia is near the equator, these highland regions are considered tundra and Arctic life zones because of the ice and snow and glaciers and frozen ground. In Bolivia, we find some of the highest mountain peaks in all the world. Many of them are over 20,000 feet high. And between two of the mountain ranges, we find the Altiplano, which means high plain. The Altiplano is about 500 miles long and 100 miles wide. The mountain ranges on either side prevent moisture from reaching the Altiplano, and so it's not only cold, but it's very, very dry. And here on the Altiplano we find Lake Titicaca, the legendary home of the Incas. Lake Titicaca is about 130 miles long and 50 miles wide, and it was made long, long ago by a glacier. It's one of the highest, coldest, and deepest lakes in all of the world. And those are the reed boats made from tortua reed. Now let's jump in the back end of a truck and ride over a 15,000-foot mountain pass down to the Yungas. Now the Yungas is our second region. Yungas is an Indian word meaning high, steep mountain valleys covered with warm tropical rainforests. Trucks are the most popular means of transportation in Bolivia, not only for people but for freight, especially the fruits and vegetables that are carried up to the highlands. Very few people live in the Yungas area. Most of them are farmers and raise the produce that is carried by truck up over the high mountains to the highlands. There are a few towns with schools and playgrounds, of course, and some stores and churches. The Yungas area is very important to Bolivia because most of the people who live on the highlands depend on the Yungas to provide them with fresh fruits and vegetables, bananas, papayas, sweet potatoes, etc. Now let's fly to our third region, which is the lowlands. The lowlands cover about 70% of the land area in Bolivia. It includes the Amazon basin, rainforest, the grassland, and some open forest. In Bolivia's Amazon basin, there are more than 30 rivers that drain into the Rio Beni and the Amazon. And here in the lowlands, we find herds of cattle that are being raised for their meat. The cowboys drive the cattle to the airstrip. There, the cattle are slaughtered, the meat is loaded onto the airplanes, and flown to the cities and to the mining areas. Now this is Reyes, a little village where I was stranded for about 6 days waiting for the rain to stop. And this is the hotel where I was staying, and this is my friend Gilly. He is pounding the corn into meal, and this is Lucia. She's helping her mother make sausage. They baked their bread, and we had fresh fruits and vegetables. The food was delicious. And my room and 3 meals a day for 6 days, would you believe my total bill was $8.25. And this is Maria with her parrot. Most of the children have a parrot or monkey as a pet that they've caught in the forest. Now this is a sugar mill. In the lowlands we also find large plantations of sugar cane and cotton. The sugar cane is cut in the field, loaded onto trucks, and brought to the mill where it's refined, crushed, and made into sugar. Then it's put into sacks, loaded onto trucks, and taken to rivers or to railroads and taken to market. Near every large mill, too, there is always a school. Also in the lowlands, they have recently discovered large deposits of natural gas and oil. This is one of the refineries in that area that I visited. Now, how does Bolivia use its land? Well, 5% is used in farming. 10% is grassland used for grazing. 45% is mountainous, too rocky and steep to use for anything but beauty. And 40% is tropical rainforest. But what about the people of Bolivia? Who are they? Where do they live? And what do they do? 65 out of every 100 are pure Indian. 10 out of every 100 are of European background, usually Spanish. And 25 out of every 100 are what we call mixed blood, and they're called cholos or mestizos. You see, when the Spanish soldiers came to Bolivia to live, many of them married Indian girls, and so their children were what we call mixed blood, half Indian and half European. Now, if I were to take you with me on my next trip to Bolivia, unfortunately, most of you would get altitude sickness when we went above 10,000 feet. You'd get a headache and a little dizzy and nauseated from the lack of oxygen. But the high altitude doesn't seem to bother the Bolivians, the ones who live in the highlands. They have richer blood and more of it, and their heart and lungs are larger. Isn't that amazing? Now, Spanish is the official language of Bolivia. However, most of the Indians still speak either Quechua or Aymara, which are Indian languages.
Esta es una leguminosa, señora, de gran poder proteínico. Tiene 17% de proteína.
2 out of 3 Bolivians live on the Altiplano and are farmers. They raise wheat, corn, and potatoes. As a matter of fact, there are over 200 different kinds of potatoes being grown on the Altiplano. The Altiplano is the original home of the potato, and it was carried from here to many places of the world where it grows today. The farms on the Altiplano are small farms. The Indians live in mud brick houses with corrugated tin roofs or roofs made of grass. The cooking is usually done outside so as not to smoke up the house. And that's a schoolhouse right there on Lake Titicaca. Now the family works together. The father plows the field, the mother plants the seeds, and the kids come behind covering over the seeds with soil. Unfortunately, all of the plots, the farmlands, are so small that there's not enough profit to buy farm machinery. So most of the work is done by hand. most of the farmers have some land, but they also have grazing animals such as sheep. There are over 5 million sheep in Bolivia, and their cows raised for their milk and their hides and meat. And there are 1.5 million and more llamas and alpacas. They're raised for their meat, their milk, their wool, and as pack animals. Now, although most of the people in Bolivia are involved in farming, mining is actually the most important industry in Bolivia because most of Bolivia's exports are metal ores, such as tin and lead, zinc, tungsten, copper, bismuth, antimony, gold, and silver. Bolivia is the world's 4th largest producer of tin, and most of Bolivia's mines are located above 12,000 feet in the mountains. Now, the miners earn about $1.50 a day. The villages are nearby where the workers live. There's schools, churches, and stores. The people work 6 days a week, the men and women, in the mines, and then on Sunday they all go to town, usually go to market. But not all the people in Bolivia are farmers and miners. 1 out of 3 Bolivians live in a city. La Paz is Bolivia's largest city with over 1 million people, and it's the world's highest capital city, nearly 12,000 feet above sea level. It's over 2 miles. Here we see people living in mud brick houses and in beautiful skyscrapers. The people work in small factories, shops, stores, and in offices. La Paz, like other cities, has problems of traffic and overpopulation, housing, unemployment, and pollution, mainly water pollution is their biggest problem. But it also has advantages of education and entertainment and culture. Bolivia is a republic. It elects a president, a Senate, and a House of Deputies. Now I'd like to show you some of the things that I have in my suitcase. My suitcase, by the way, is made of cowhide, and I bought it in Santa Cruz in the lowlands. This is a piece of ore that I got in the tin mine that you just saw. And then, of course, as you know, I always like to collect dolls from the countries that I go to, and these dolls represent the people who live in Sucre, the traditional capital of Bolivia, and they're dressed in home-woven clothes, and many of the Indians still do make their clothes by hand. And here is Tio, the devil god who lives in the mines and causes the cave-ins, and they often dress like him in their parades. And here is a skirt that the Indian women wear. I bought one for myself. And I have one musical instrument to show you from Bolivia, the flute, which is very popular. And, of course, my poncho. My poncho is made of alpaca wool. I hope you've enjoyed our lesson, and until next time, adios, amigos.